Hi, it's Shannon McCall from livingintobalance.com. I am a yoga and meditation teacher, an Ayurveda practitioner, and a health coach and mentor to women in peri-menopause and beyond. And today's topic is how to balance Vata dosha. So I'm going to talk about some simple strategies to bring Vata dosha down. And before I do that, I want to just talk a little bit about what the doshas are, what Vata is, so that we have more of a baseline in our understanding. So, if you know anything about Ayurveda, you have probably heard the word dosha, you've heard the words Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. You might even know what your dominant doshas are, and that's wonderful. The word dosha actually means fault. It means something that goes out of balance. It's a Sanskrit word, and it refers to three forces, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, that all of us have. These forces within our organism govern particular functions, keep us healthy, and they have a tendency to go out of balance very easily. And that's because balance is dynamic, and we're only ever in balance very briefly, right? And our organism is in a constant um, situation of maintaining homeostasis within us. So we're always making these subtle adjustments to what's going on within us and our inner environment and to whatever's going on around us. So we call them doshas, but you could think of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha that when they're in relative balance, they're not causing any problems. You could think of them more as forces. And when they're out of balance, when they're starting to cause problems, that's when they become dosha. And for those of us that have gone to Ayurveda school, one of the first things we learn is that Vata dosha underlies 80% of all disease process. So 8 out of 10 diseases at their root are caused by high Vata dosha. So we want to understand what Vata is. We want to understand how to calm it, and so that we can prevent or push back the onset of any disease we might have to experience. So Ayurveda is the science of longevity. It is a body of knowledge that really shows us how to live in relationship with our own organism or our own nature, and how to live in relationship to the larger world around us. So there's the microcosm that we are, and the macrocosm that we are a reflection of. So there's nothing about us that's separate from nature. We're intimately in relationship with all that is all the time. It can be no other way. So Vata as a force governs all movement within the body and the mind. And in modern terms, we often talk about Vata as being synonymous with the nervous system. And so I just want to say that that's not exactly accurate. And it's not a bad way to help us, especially in the beginning, to start to understand what Vata is and to use language that we might already be familiar with. So I am going to talk a lot about the nervous system today. So Vata governs all movement in the body. There's no movement that happens without Vata. And any impediment to that movement, any excess movement, any diminishment in movement is reflecting something that's going on with Vata, and we would want to take care of that. Pitta is a force that governs all the metabolism in our body. So the central metabolism, which we think of as like our digestive function, but metabolism in every cell of the body. And Pitta's territory is also connected to hormones. Kapha is a force that governs all moisture and lubrication in the body, and really all substance in general. So all the lubrication in our lungs, in our mucosal membranes, our GI tract, that's all kapha. The lining, the fatty lining of the nervous tissue itself is kapha. So these three forces are in all of us, and they function in a balanced way. And when they go out of balance, they're called dosha. And these three forces, vata, pitta, and kapha, we all have a particular ratio of them. We all have all of them, but we have more or less of them depending on our body type. So there are 7 unique body types in Ayurveda. So you can have a little more vata, a little more pitta, a little more kapha. Most of us have a combination where we have one dosha that's the most prominent, a second one that is a key player, and a third one that's not quite as prominent. And what that means in terms of prominence is it doesn't give us as many problems. So, whatever our nature is, if in the doshas, these forces are made up of the 5 great elements, space, air, fire, water, and earth. Those 5 elements are made up of 20 qualities, and those are divided into 10 pair of qualities that are opposites. And it's through an understanding of our unique nature, our prakriti, which is that combination of doshas that we have, that we're made up with. It's, this comes at birth. Our nature, just like our genetic inheritance, is determined right at the moment of conception, and it doesn't ever change. What does change is how those doshas express themselves, just like what we can impact is how those genetics unfold. I mean, some of it is just going to happen, right? I have brown hair, I have hazel eyes. That's not anything that I can really change. I mean, I can dye my hair, right? But certain aspects of my character and my physiology, I can work with over time. And so even though, dad had a bad hip and grandpa had a bad hip, maybe I don't have to have a bad hip, or maybe I do have some hip issues, but I can work with them throughout my lifetime, and I can eat a diet that's anti-inflammatory. And so my hip issues, I can mitigate how those express themselves. So understanding your nature, understanding how the doshas in general, helps us to know how to live. It helps us to know what kinds of environments are best for us, what kind of an environment will allow us to thrive, what kind of environments will be more challenging. And then we can mitigate those challenges through all the choices we make and what we eat, in our lifestyle, in the herbs and medicines we choose, and things like that. Understanding your unique nature is really incredible. Having an understanding of these doshas is really helpful too, because it allows us to have some perspective and some separation between what's happening and who we actually are, right? So for example, you might be somebody that's a little high strung, that tends towards anxiety and fear. When you're out of balance, that would be an expression of vata, for example. And you could think of yourself as, oh, I'm a high strung person. Or you could recognize that you're getting a little amped up and say, oh, vata's going high. How empowering is it to be able to say vata's going high, right? It doesn't mean that I'm a freaked out, scared person. Vata's going high. And when vata's high in this organism, these are the kinds of emotions that show up. This is the kind of physiology that shows up. And I can take some actions to bring vata down. And I don't have to identify with that imbalance. So what I find with myself and with my clients is there's a lot of space that comes from understanding our character, its strengths and its weaknesses, and being able to detach a little bit from how some of those strengths and weaknesses show up, so that we don't have to carry around this kind of burdened identity. So getting back to this idea that 80% of all disease is caused by vata dosha, what does that mean? In modern language, we could think of it as 80% of all disease comes from an imbalanced nervous system, right? So when we're in fight or flight, when we're in freeze, when we're in appease and fawn, When these become habitual, that drives inflammation in the body. The inflammation often pushes more lubrication to come in, excess tissue, things to try to calm it down, and that causes all kinds of problems. What's underlying those problems is the imbalance in the nervous system. We do understand in modern day, we understand that healing can't really happen unless the nervous system is in a state of calm and ease. We understand that digestion doesn't really happen well when we're in a state of distress, right? We need to rest. We need to be in a state of calm, even to digest our food well. That means you could be eating all the right things, but if you're not dealing with the underlying stress in your life and your sphincters aren't opening well and you can't poop, or there's tension in the gut and the digestive organs aren't able to pulse and blood flow isn't getting there, right? And we can't take in and assimilate what we're eating. That food doesn't do us any good. It does us much less good than if we can rest and digest. So these things sound so simple. They're so easy to sort of minimize. It's like, yeah, whatever. I wolf my food down. I'm fine. You might be fine now, but when we look at longevity medicine, when we look at the work of Dr. Peter Attia, when we look at the factors that go into living a long and healthy life, to deferring disease or preventing it altogether, it's all of these things that we begin to dial in as soon as possible in our adulthood. So these are the things that matter. These are the core things. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the nervous system, because often we think about the nervous system as, fight or flight, and that's bad, rest and digest, and that's good. And that might be all that we really know about the nervous system. And that statement is so lacking in painting a whole picture. The sympathetic nervous system is that part of us that can mobilize effectively. And when the sympathetic nervous system is in balance, we can know what we want, we can go after what we want, we can compete in a healthy way, we can mobilize our energy effectively. And that's the sympathetic nervous system in balance. When the sympathetic nervous system is out of balance, that's when it becomes more of a fight or flight situation, where we're overly aggressive, we're pushing into situations that are dangerous, or we're running away and avoiding things. So healthy sympathetic, it doesn't show up as fight or flight, right? Healthy sympathetic is having the energy to go after what you want and being able to move towards those things. Rest and digest describes the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system, one aspect of it, but it only represents that in a state of ease. So when we're at ease in our parasympathetic nervous system, yes, we can rest, we can sleep, we can have an orgasm, we can digest our food. That's true. What happens when we're under stress? Well, that same capacity in the parasympathetic nervous system shows up differently, right? Under stress in parasympathetic, we go into freeze, right? So there's a kind of dissociation, a kind of cloudiness and confusion that shows up. So both the sympathetic branch and the parasympathetic branch can show up in ease. That would be, kind of calm vata, when things are calm and we're resourced, or they can be in a state of dis-ease, or stress that's become not healthy stress but unhealthy stress, and that's where we go into fight or flight or freeze. Since the late 80s, Stephen Porges gave us a polyvagal theory, and so now we understand the parasympathetic nervous system has two branches. It has the dorsal branch, which is in the lower part of the body, and the vagal branch, which is more in the face. And this brought us this understanding of the social nervous system, which is especially important for women to understand because if you have a body that is more dominated by estrogen, you're going to tend to be more relational than if you have a body more dominated by testosterone. And so the social nervous system is something that tends to be a little bit more relevant to women. Of course, it's relevant to men, of course. When we feel safe in that branch of the parasympathetic system, we can play, we can be in groups and feel relaxed and feel like we can be ourselves. We can stand out in a crowd without fearing that the people are going to come after us, that it's dangerous. So healthy, balanced nervous system, a calm nervous system in the social branch brings all of those things. It brings our capacity to bond with other humans and feel good about that. When we don't feel safe in the social nervous system, that's where things like appeasing comes in. We start to dumb down, we play dumb, or we play nice, and we're nice to the people that are bullies. Why is that? Because we're trying to stay safe. And so if you've ever been in a social situation where you feel like you're dumbing yourself down, that's a sign to you that for whatever reason your organism is perceiving some kind of threat. And that's what we do. So it's good to know that. It's good also to know that that's what we do and that isn't who we are. And it's really good to know that our nervous system's responses are happening at the level of our organism and not at the level of our minds. In other words, we're not talking ourselves into feeling aggressive. We're not talking ourselves into freezing. We're not talking ourselves into people pleasing. These are things that happen kind of below the level of our awareness. What we can do is we can become more sensitive to when these are showing up. We can start to notice some of the the earlier signs that we're starting to get amped up, or we're starting to disappear, or we're starting to people please, and we can take a corrective action. And I'm going to teach us some of those practices today, and bring our nervous system back into present time, into calm, and then we'll be in more choice, in more resource within ourselves. So anything can trigger a sense of us not being safe. So this wiring of how our nervous system is wired and what makes us feel safe or unsafe, this is the territory of 90% of communication is happening non-verbally. So it's the way somebody looks at us or doesn't look at us. It's the tone of someone's voice. It's the way their lip curls up. It's all of these factors that our organism is responding to that make us feel safe or unsafe. It's not always accurate. It's very often inaccurate, right? The fact that somebody has a certain tone of voice doesn't mean anything about our safety, perhaps, right? They might be having a bad day and it doesn't have anything to do with us. However, to our organism that remembers that dad had that tone of voice, and anytime we heard that tone of voice, it meant he was gonna, go off on us. That wiring is in there, so we have a response as if we're back in some other time. So we can repattern those things over time. It's not like we can take a pill and suddenly override all of that stuff. So those ways that our nervous system is wired, it is our responsibility. It's not our destiny. We can work with this. So when Vata dosha goes high and the nervous system is amped up, it can show up as aggression, fight or flight, running away from something, moving towards something. It can show up as freeze, where we're kind of numbing out, we're dissociating, we get confused, or it can show up as this appeasing and playing nice and people pleasing. And anytime we notice that kind of behavior showing up, we can just recognize that we've moved into territory where our organism isn't feeling safe. So let's do a couple of practices together now, starting with just taking a couple of breaths and feeling your feet on the floor, feeling your butt in the chair. You can close your eyes if you like, and take a moment to just check in with yourself right now. What's the quality of your mind? How are your thoughts? And what are the qualities of your heart? Any feelings present right now? And notice just at the level of sensations in your body. And wherever you might be feeling sensation, go ahead and move your awareness into those parts of your body, or even put your hands on those parts and just see if you can make contact and notice what happens. So this way of checking in with ourselves at the level of mind, heart, and body is a practice of self-awareness, of staying kind of connected to what's happening in present time. And this is something we can do anytime. And I'm sure lots of you do this. It's something we get trained to do as yogis. Now, the practice we're going to do is called orienting. And what I'd like you to do is just take a moment to look around the space you're in slowly. And as you look around the space you're in, let your eyes land on particular objects, and let that thing that you're seeing really land in your organism, noticing the color, the shape, the texture, whether it's pleasing to you, how it impacts you. And continue to look around your space in a way that you're moving your head. So you're looking all the way around, moving your eyes, looking behind you, looking overhead, looking below you. Continuing with that as long as you like, and then coming back to yourself and just noticing how you feel now. So you might feel a little bit more here. Your breath might have deepened, or you might have yawned. You might feel a little calmer. You could feel any way. These are just some things you might, some emotion might come up. So what's true is that if we were really under threat, we couldn't expand our gaze like that. We couldn't broaden out. We couldn't look around and turn our head, maybe quickly, to see if the tiger was still there, but that's about it. So this practice of orienting, turning your head, turning your eyes, is a way of communicating to your nervous system that you are safe in this moment. Okay. So that's something you can do in a social situation. You notice yourself starting to dumb down. You notice gosh, why am I at this party? I shouldn't have come. And you can take a moment, check in with yourself, orient to where you actually are, look around, come back to yourself again, and you'll probably find you have a little bit more capacity in that moment. Usually when we're thinking about calming the nervous system, we're thinking about down regulating, right? We're amped up, we feel anxious, we feel nervous, we feel edgy, we feel aggressive, and so we need to down regulate. And so I'm going to teach you now a way to do that effectively, and it's a breathing pattern. I'm going to be inhaling for 4 counts, holding the breath in for 7, and exhaling for 8, and then holding the breath out again for 4. Okay, so let's begin. Inhale for 4 counts. And pause, retain the breath for 7, and if you'd like, you can close your eyes. You don't have to close your eyes. And then go ahead and exhale for 8. hold your breath out for 4. Inhale for 4. Pause for 7. Exhale for 8. And pause for 4. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. And hold out again for 4. And just return to a natural breath now. So you're no longer controlling your breath. Again, notice how you feel. It's natural to yawn. You might tear. You might hear your belly gurgle. And that's an effective way of bringing yourself down when you're feeling a little amped up. And we did 3 rounds of that. I often will do 5 rounds of that and then take a breath. I will often do that while I'm lying on my back and just take a break. Now, sometimes what we need when the nervous system is overly amped up, if we've gone into freeze, right, where there's a sense of kind of dissociating, we're losing energy, we can feel confused, we can feel muddled in our thinking, like we're disappearing a little bit. Down regulating in a state like that is not really very helpful. What we actually need is to bring our energy back up. So I'm going to teach you one more breathing practice called Bhastrika, which is fast breathing. And we do this by pumping the belly. So each exhalation, you'll draw your navel back like that. And at the end of the time, I'm going to have you inhale and then hold your breath in for a little while. If you have high blood pressure, or if you have eye problems, I'm going to give you something different to do. I'll be right back. Okay, so if you have high blood pressure and you don't want to do that, I just want you to take some breaths in through your mouth like this. And then you'll exhale through your nostrils. Okay, so here we go with the fast breathing. Now exhale. We'll take a breath in. Top of the breath, hold your breath in for as long as you can comfortably. Drop your chin towards your chest. You can close your eyes if you like. And there'll be a moment when you want to exhale. So whenever that moment comes, simply exhale through your nostrils. And just let your breath return to normal. Notice how you're feeling. You might feel a little tingly. You might feel like your head is clearing up. It could be an emotion that comes. I'm going to do one more round of the fast breathing. This again is the energy should be at your navel center. So if you put your hand over your navel, each exhale should feel your hand move back, and the inhale, the hand comes forward. So it's not the shoulders moving. All the energy's down in the belly. Here we go. Exhale, inhale, top of your inhale, hold your breath in, Drop your chin towards your chest and retain the breath for as long as it's comfortable. Whenever you're ready to exhale, simply exhale and return to a natural breath. So as long as you can hold the breath in, go ahead and do that. As you return to a normal breath, take a moment to look around. And again, just notice how you feel at the level of your mind, heart, and body. So we did the down regulating first, so this is a little bit more balancing as we're about to finish out the practice. So that if you find yourself stuck, if you find yourself like you're kind of losing energy or dissociating, the fast breathing is a good way to help you kind of come back into your body to begin to unthaw any freeze that might be triggered. So these are 3 practices that you can use in the moment when you find yourself in a space where your nervous system is letting you know that you're not feeling safe socially, you're feeling overly aggressive, or you're feeling like you're starting to lose energy. And this is a way to effectively kind of bring Vata down in different ways and to help kind of stabilize your organism overall. And at that point, what you have is you have more capacity to make a real choice. So you're not going to be kind of at the mercy of your nervous system, and you're going to just restore your body's capacity to come back into a more balanced overall state. Keeping Vata calm is something that we major in in Ayurveda, and it has everything to do with living in rhythm. So waking, sleeping, eating, do all the things that we include in a lifestyle that helps to keep the organism calm. A calm organism is what's going to keep the heat down, the inflammation down, because as we know, this overamped nervous system, however it expresses itself, is what's going to be pushing the disease process in most cases. So if you would like to learn more about your organism, if you want to really understand your own nature, its gifts and its challenges, if you want to have practices like this, if you want to understand how to live in a way to keep Vata calm so that you feel more resourced, so that you can mitigate the disease process or keep it at bay for as long as possible so that you can work with your weak links. I have a lot of resources for you, and I'd love for you to just comment in the comment section resources, and I will share those with you. I've got a program coming up at the end of January. It's a 16-week program called Living Vitality and Balance. And in this 16 weeks, we're going to be learning all the protocols to help keep Vata balanced. We're going to all be learning about our particular unique constitutional type, its strengths and its weaknesses. And we're going to have the time over 16 weeks to start to really get some traction on these practices to strengthen our nervous system and to increase the number of tools we have so that we can live a long, healthy, and happy life, so that we can disidentify with some of those weak links, start to understand them better, and work with them to really open up our full capacity in our lifetime. All right, thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you again next week.